to the chairs and the folks who have come out from a long distance. We appreciate you being here, and we appreciate you being here for Bob. I know Bob appreciates you as well. So I've been lucky enough as a colleague for a long time. In fact, way back, right around the turn of the century, which sounds like a long time. Millennium, turn of the millennium. Yeah, that's good. When I came here because of Bob. Those days, we used to be able to like go on a whole bunch of visits for job interviews to other campuses and stuff, like 3 or 4, or sometimes 5. It's crazy. And you might even get like more than one offer. That's just nutty, right? And I somehow, I don't know how that happened, but I was lucky enough to be one of those people. And after Carl rejected the offer here to go to Washington, sorry, I got the chance to decide whether I wanted to come here, and Bob was really the motivating factor. It was clear. I mean, where else do you get to go? It's like there's a philosopher of biology built in. He's senior. I just get to keep on, right, learning things. And for a bunch of years, I don't even know, I don't want to know how many. I spent a lot of time in bars and restaurants and Bob's office and seminars and all that kind of stuff, just talking about biology. We often talked about philosophy too, but usually in a derisive way. And we talked about biology in a much, much less derisive way. And that's kind of one of the big things that I learned from Bob. You know, since I was really fresh out of grad school, I was still worried about trying to figure out how to be in a philosophy department as someone who thought philosophy was kind of weird, right? And that the work I was doing, you know, philosophy didn't really seem to help it in any way. It was like, do the biology and then see what happens. And that was a really difficult relationship because I was also being told at the same time, you better be able to talk to your weird colleagues like Aristotle and stuff like that. And what I learned from Bob is that, and I think this actually really is a really good feature of the 93 book that he and Bill wrote, is that if you just let the science drive what you're doing, the little that you need from philosophy will just fall out. And if you start to take that seriously, it becomes a really nice, easy way of doing what you need to do. People will still call you a non-philosopher, but who gives a shit? And I was in a department too, right? John Bickle was the department head, where we were maybe a little obsessed with kind of going that direction. If you know John, you know what I mean. So that was one of the big things I learned from Bob. I also learned, maybe the most important lesson that I learned, was that pitchers of beer come in pairs. I didn't know that for years. I kept leaving one behind. And I feel like I really lost a lot of money. Pitchers of beers cocktails also come in pairs. Vermouth does not go in a martini. Actually, Carl was like, hey, I thought you might make a cocktail for Bob. You know, a Richardson cocktail. And I thought, oh, that would have been cool, but it would just be gin. Boring. So for me, Bob has been a very valuable colleague and a good friend. He watched me go through a lot of torment. He kept me on suicide watch through that torment, which was a really nice thing for him to do. He didn't have to do it. And I'm lucky that I'm still around. And I get to go screw around with Bob if I want to, whenever I want to. In fact, Peggy and I just made plans to go do that. I don't know. No. I think it's more fun now. So that's my thing. And if anybody else has anything they would like to say about Bob, now is the time. But before we do that, we're going to watch some. Sorry?
Now's not the time.
Now's not the time. Oh, yeah, right. Now's not the time. I have some people who couldn't make it here. wanted to say something at any rate. And so there are some video greetings that we have from a handful of people, and I want to get those. It's Bickle talk, and we don't see that again. We want to see video greetings for Bob. Somebody asked me to do this, and that's what you get. So here they are. Hopefully the sound will work on this. No, of course not. All the way.
He's saying nice things.
Table, no. Where is it coming from? Oh, you just want to do it through the mic? Okay. I'll start it over there. It's not coming out.
I'm assistant professor.
It's not going to work. I think if we could turn the mic off, that would be great. Uh-oh, Mel's coming. That's It's all microphones.
You just press the help me button.
That keeps you in it.
It's a well-oiled machine.
What's the word?
Yeah, you're all mad.
Yeah. Also,
But don't go into the. Okay, hold on. Extra media port?
Probably.
I would change the port.
Yeah.
How did you do that? Oh, did you write that?
Doesn't matter. As long as it's done.
Is there sound just fine?
No, there will be sound.
Now we're on the media port speaker.
There's another one above it.
Second one.
Cheers to Peter.
Peter, fantastic,
I just wanted to wish you all the best and remind you that your mentorship inspired an entire career. I wish I could be there to celebrate with you, but next time I'm in Cincinnati, I'll look you up and maybe go up to Dayton and visit you. Hope you're doing well. All the best.
Hi everyone, my name is Vanessa Bentley, though you may remember me as Vanessa Worley. I'm assistant professor at the University of Central Oklahoma in the Department of Humanities and Philosophy. Bob, congratulations on your retirement. I really just appreciated all of the chances that I had to learn from you, whether it was taking courses. I took evolutionary biology that you team taught with Rob. But you actually just really farmed it out to a series of great philosophers that you invited in, a bunch of your friends, and evolutionary biology. I think it was in conjunction with the birthday of Charles Darwin and the anniversary of Origin of Species. Anyway, that was just a really great seminar. I took philosophy of cognitive science with you. And I also TA'd with you, so philosophy of neuroscience and contemporary moral problems. So learning from you in those avenues, as well as the questions that you would ask when we had invited speakers. I learned how to be considerate, how to be charitable, how to be fair in my assessments and my questions, my evaluations. These are just fantastic qualities to model to aspiring philosophers. I just want to share one quick memory. You missed my prospectus defense. I can't remember why, whether you forgot or if it was the day that your garage door was stuck and you couldn't get your car out. So you missed that, but you did make it for my dissertation defense, so that was what really counted. Anyway, congratulations again on your retirement. I appreciate your support throughout the years, and I'm thankful that I had the opportunity to learn from you.
Back in 1999, I was fascinated by everything that fell under the umbrella of complexity. Looking for philosophical works on this topic, I found Discovering Complexity at the library of the Free University of Berlin. That book made me cross the Atlantic and to study philosophy with Bob. I learned a lot from what Bob wrote and from what he said. But I also learned a lot from what he didn't say. And that was a very important part. So thank you, Bob, for everything you taught me.
Hi, Bob. I'm sorry I can't be there for Bobapalooza, but I'm very glad to be able to participate this way, and very glad that you and your work are being justifiably honored. It gives me a chance to say some of the sorts of things that need to be said, but sometimes we neglect to say. So in my recollection, you and I first met at an APA Pacific meeting in 1997, way back then, when I was in the last months of finishing up my dissertation. I was the speaker, you were the commentator. I knew my presentation was a bit half-baked. I was trying to argue that chance in the form of genetic drift could be explanatory. Not that I think I was wrong, but let's just say the whole setup of the paper was a bit suspect. And you very kindly overlooked those half-baked parts, and instead you focused on giving me constructive feedback. And when you did this, you made me feel welcome to the philosophy of biology community, and you made me feel as though this was a community where my contributions would be taken seriously, and where I could engage in interesting conversations. And indeed, that's exactly what happened. You and I went on to do several colloquia together, all broadly on chance and evolution. And in the course of these colloquia, you pushed me to think harder about why I was asking the questions I was asking about determinism and things like that, and why I was defending the particular views that I was defending. And you always did this with the same spirit of generosity and kindness. Now, we both eventually moved on to other topics, and so we saw each other less often, which makes me sad a little bit, but I'm forever grateful to you for helping me get my start in the field. So thank you, Bob. Thank you very much. I'm wishing you all the best in your retirement.
Dear Bob, time runs, as we both know. It's now 15 years ago that you spent a whole year at Osnabrück University together with Peggy, and we taught several seminars together with a lot of fun. And it's even 20 years ago that we both spent some time at Albert Hoogstraat in Amsterdam and at the VU working together with Frank and Fred. That was a really, really pleasant time. And for you, I just got a palm that was so nice in the evenings to
have really fun speaking together. Now that you retire, well, I'm sorry, I couldn't make it to come to Cincinnati for these 2 days. But I'm with thoughts, in my thoughts with you. And I hope that you have a really great symposium in honor of you. By the way, I will also retire soon. End of September is my time. So have a good time and all the best from Achim.
I'm sending my greetings and best wishes to Bob for wonderful retirement. I came to UC in the fall of 1986 as an assistant professor, tenure track, with a graduate education that was in some ways lacking. I will always be grateful for mentoring I received from Bob, the frequent checkups, the Friday afternoon meetings of the more or less exact philosophy group, and the encouragement and freedom to go wherever I wanted in philosophy. I hope I will see you many times during your retirement. Thank you.
Cheers, Bob.
Cheers. Cheers.
It wouldn't come out of the speakers. If anybody else would like to share anything about Bob, it'd be a great time to do that. I know Bickle. Okay.
Yeah.
You want the mic,
Yeah.
Bob, John?
So I don't want to talk about anything when I was here in Bob and I were colleagues, because there's great things that happen there, and it was just so great being your departmental colleague, Bob. But I do want to remember something that when I first met you, and that was all the way back. We were trying to date it this morning. That was all the way back in New Orleans at an SSPP, right after the book came out. And I'm blanking, my memory's getting through, but I'm blanking on exactly who was there. But I do remember that Bob McCauley brought me down. I was giving a talk, like one of my early talks on multiple realizability, but he said, "John, come on down." And this was when we met at the Monteleone, and we weren't in the carousel bars. Remember those bars that kind of on part of the Monteleone that kind of line the street of Royal Street? It was in one of those. And Bob McCauley said, "John, come on down. I want you to meet some people." And this was where you and Bill were given the book had just come out, and so you were doing a symposium or a book on the book, and so it was. And I'm trying to remember who exactly it was. I believe it was you, Bill. I think George Graham was there, and I think there was one more. It might not have been Horgan, but it was somebody like that. Yeah, exactly. That's who it was. Exactly. And here's the thing. So, I was 4 years out of graduate school, right? And so, just kind of getting started at East Carolina. And here I was among these absolute stars. And it was just like carrying on and joining the conversation. And so one of the things I took from that is something I've tried to maintain myself and try to do myself. And that is, try to get as many young people into the profession who are interested in the general topics. And it really came from that kind of conversation and that kind of interaction with people who were very well known, very important, just someone who's just fresh out of graduate school. So thanks again for giving me that kind of image of what it is to be a senior, advanced person and very well-known person in the discipline, and how to treat those who are coming up.
In Cincinnati is say again, cheers, Bob.
Yes.
And this will repeat most of the time.
Hey, Bob. Oh, sorry. I've been debating whether or not to tell this story because Well, I mean, I hope you're okay with me telling this story. I was at my first PSA meeting. You won't remember this at all. And I've already told the story about how I found this book. So by that point, I knew who you guys were. And I was a young person just getting my PhD. This was the PSA. Stewart was in a mechanism session. Lindley was in a mechanism session. Woodward gave a mechanism paper. I gave a Hodgkin-Huxley paper there. I remember this all very clearly. And this was, I think, the first PSA where I was delivering a talk of my own, and which was a paper that we were just talking about, actually. The Hodgkin-Huxley paper was that paper. And I was terrified because I thought that the paper was a piece of crap and that nobody was going to like it and that I was not going to be able to get a job and that really an awful lot was hanging on this performance. And I was really terrified, actually. And there were all these people running around, giants of the field, and in those days, like Tom Kuhn was at the meeting, and Wesley Salmon was at the meeting, and so it was just utterly terrifying. And I came over, and Bob was giving a talk, maybe on emergence at that point, at the meeting. And I came over and sat down to just strike up a mechanism conversation with him. And I noticed that he was shaking. And I said, Bob, what's going on? And he said, I get really nervous before I give talks. And I'm about to go give this talk, and I'm just trying to get my thoughts together here. And I'm a little uncomfortable. And I remember we talked about that for a little bit, and then we sort of parted ways. And I felt in that moment like something very human. Like I was not dealing with a giant figure alone. I was dealing with a human being that happened to be a giant figure. And at a time when I was in a state of tremendous internal turmoil, recognizing that somebody who was even very advanced in their career could still inside feel that kind of fear, have that kind of trepidation about standing up in front of a room with their colleagues and speaking in public and staking out a position on something and being willing to own up to the fact that that's hard. And I think that maybe the owning up to that hardness is part of what makes you such a friendly and gentle interactor. These stories that you keep hearing, they keep coming up from everyone. You like smile and then you deliver the criticism. I'm not sure. I bet maybe Bill has at some point, but I've never heard you raise your voice. And for that, I'm just Peggy is perhaps. Maybe John has heard it. Yeah. Okay. Well, I'm just.
Very specific situation.
I'm just.
Particular person who's a former department colleague.
I just want to say that takes self-control, and it takes a real good human inside. And so I want to share this moment of maybe a kind of weakness or something, because I think it's exactly the kind of humanizing thing that I learned from you. And among the many intellectual things, that was one of the personal ones. So, Bob, thank you very much for being a person, and best luck to you. Follow that.
Exactly.
All right.
Good, Mike.
So I'm a new colleague here at UC. I'm a younger faculty member who has not had as much opportunity to work with Bob. But one of the clear things that's come out from this conference for me is when I came here, everybody told me how much I would like it here. How it was a welcoming place, how it was a friendly place, how I would feel supported doing philosophy. I also do kind of kooky philosophy and how that would be accepted and supported and thrive here. And it's clear that a lot of that starts and has originated with you, Bob. A lot of your colleagues have said that already, your former students have said that already. For some of you know, we've recently moved to this new building from the old building, and as a younger colleague, one of the bad grad student young folk habits that dies hard is books. And recently, we were all given the opportunity to go through Bob's books that he had left behind and pick some of them. And so I was eagerly going around with some of the grad students, like looking through all the books. And way in a corner, I found this. And this is actually your dissertation. It was very hidden away, tucked away, and I was like, what is this? But it seemed important, and so I saved it for today, and I wanted to make sure it got back to you for you to either treasure forever or burn. I'm still young enough, I want to burn my dissertation, but I wanted to be sure to return it to you.
But you have to read the title.
Okay.
So you know what good preparation for a very naturalistic philosopher of science is like.
The title is Intentionality, Infallibility, and Identity in a Defense of the Perennial Philosophy.
Yes.
That should be set against what Rob said before. Hostility to philosophy. I've known more than anybody here, I think. 45, 47 years. He came in the mid-70s. He was a wonderful addition to the department. He was the first person that we ever hired without having a personal interview on site. Later, I found out from him that the best literature, about heuristics and the sort of stuff that Bob knew about social psych before my son became a social psychologist, he was telling me about these things. And he told me about how interviews often really are a skewed way of hiring people. And I wondered about that at the time, because we used to go to APAs and we would have 2 people together and we'd interview about 15 people, trying to choose these best people from all over the world and so on. And, the more I thought about it, the more I thought, well, the way we got Bob was not like interviewing a bunch of people on site and taking their measure and seeing whether they did or did not stand up to the questions and the theoretical things that we ask of people when they're competing for a job. And it was one of the best hires we ever made. And I totally agree with what Carl said.
One second, Penny, before we go on with some other people speaking, Bob, we didn't get you a Rolex.
That's okay.
But we did get a copy of the poster.
Oh my God, that's beautiful.
So beautiful.
Oh, that is beautiful.
We've been promoting ourselves in various ways these days. So you have the first ever embroidered UC philosophy piece. So there you go.
Wonderful.
Thank you. Penny, you wanted to...
Well, I don't know if this is appropriate or not, because I've got a glass and a quarter of champagne, but I will say it anyway. And I think it'll be all right knowing Bob, what a sterling human being he is. My late husband, Don Gustafson, who was head of this philosophy department in the 1970s, was a teacher of Bob at the University of Boulder. I'm sorry, Colorado at Boulder. And he gave Bob a B. And later on, as they became wonderful friends and incredible colleagues, and Don recognized his brilliance and wanted to award him thank you for being such a wonderful student. He awarded him an official A for that class. So I know that Don, if he was here, he's been gone 14 years, to my everlasting sorrow, would want me to say this about you and how he cared for you so deeply and admired you for your philosophy and your good heart, beautiful mind. Peggy, thank you too for being so much part of us. Thank you, everybody, and I have enjoyed this so much. There is nothing like a philosophy department at the University of Cincinnati. Thank you all.
Don
for
also
students.
gives credit for the department being the kind of department it is.
Yeah.
The kind of thing that Carl was noticing. That was Don.
So thank you all very much for being who you are and where you are. It's great. Thank you so much.
microphone is right by you, Bob.
Okay, I get it. Yeah, I was saying Don was responsible for the department being the kind of department it is anyways. But, yesterday Bill Bechtel said philosophy is not a solo enterprise. It's a collaborative enterprise. And that's true. And that's what makes our department strong. Thanks to all of you. When Tom was going to put this on, I thought, don't do it. We don't need to do this. He insisted, and I thought, okay, well, Peggy will come. This is a little better than that. Thanks to all of you very much. I'm not going to pick anyone out solo except Don. But thanks to all of you. I've valued collaborations with you people as collaborators, as colleagues, as friends, all three, for years. And I still will. Thanks.
Cheers to Bob.
Cheers, Bob.
Cheers to Bob.
Anybody else would like to say something? I thought you might, John.
Yeah.
That's okay.
I was on leave when Bob was hired. When I got back, he was already undergraduate. So one of the things that hasn't been mentioned about Bob
Went out of it.
is service to the department. Yes. He was always ready to take any position that nobody else wanted to do, especially headship. He was one of the, we had a number of heads, and Bob was the headship twice. Did a difficult job. We were a contentious department. In the friendliest possible way. There's a number of big egos around. And Bob dealt with them good. So I think besides his intellectual contributions to the discipline and to the department, he also made important practical contributions. And I've always enjoyed him as a colleague, even though he was challenging sometimes. That's what I've got to say. Thank you, Bob.
Thank you.
As a former student during the times when not everybody was so friendly and we had our struggles, Bob was always there for me. And I can't thank him for all the supports. Thank you.
Okay. See, if you wait, then things happen.
When I first got
Here, hold up now.
Yeah, when I first got to Cincinnati, I was put with Bob to TA with him sort of by chance. And I quickly figured out that he was one of the wisest philosophers of biology I had met, and I could exploit this by constantly TAing for him. And I would get several hours of him as a sort of captive audience for my weird ideas, and could try things out on him in his office for hours every week, and would always leave with a very tall stack of books. And my first couple of days in the department in Cincinnati, I found a tiny kitten on the street, like a little stray, flea-ridden kitten. And I remember Bob in the first week or so of me being in the department gave me some cutout newspaper articles about cat behavior and cat intelligence. And we had, I think in that semester, we had a seminar in philosophy of biology, and Rob would sit in and it would always turn into sort of a rehashing of debates that happened in philosophy of biology in like the 1970s and had been sort of laid to rest since then, but we would like sort of viciously replay them out, and everyone who had an actual background in philosophy and not biology was sort of sadly sitting in the corner. It was great. And then I studied Darwin with Bob as well, and when Bob retired, I sort of when Bob stopped coming into the department every day, I sort of moved on to Pittsburgh, and when I found out that Bob wasn't coming back to the department, I just sort of stayed like, yeah, there's no point anymore. I won't mention what Bob referred to as the Cathedral of Learning, but I remember him saying this very soberly, divulging to me what they referred to the Cathedral of Learning as.
Oh, is it Clark? Of course it was.
It was called Resurrection.
Good for you. We can't help it, it just comes out of our pores.
So, okay, I'll stand up. So I already said some things about Bob earlier today when I gave my talk. But looking around, I realized that I might be the only person in the room to say this, so I feel like I should say it. We spend so much of our time teaching undergraduates. And you can really tell a lot about a person from how they treat their undergrads, who can be hard to be patient with and kind to. And Bob and everybody else in the room that taught me was always so kind and so understanding and so patient with me, who was, a dumb 21-year-old that believed a lot of stupid shit, frankly. And you were always willing to sit down with me and talk to me and patiently work through problems with me. And I remember finding out at some point that Bob was actually kind of a big deal. And I couldn't believe that this person who was so well respected in his profession would actually be willing to sit down with a lowly undergrad and work through all of these things. And it's really, you and the other people in the room that taught me that I owe my entire career to, and I'm so grateful. Thank you, Bob.
All right. So I'll slow walk this until the next person gets up the courage. But otherwise, thank everyone for coming, and I think celebrating Bob in the most important way, which is doing the kind of philosophy that Bob loves to do and taught some of us to do and mentored some of us to do, and that we will continue to do, including with him in the coming years. But thank you to everybody. Appreciate it.
Yeah.
And now that the microphones are off,